Hello, 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 class.
What's up?
What's up? How we doing?
I'm good.
Good.
And practice more driving today.
You practice your driving. Do you mean like golf driving? Or you mean like driving?
Driving.
Well, it's pretty nice with all the parking lots open. You can just go practice, huh?
Yeah, I drove over to where Sonora is, and I drive down their parking lot.
Go for a bigger one. Try Cal State Fullerton.
All right, I'll try that next time.
Huge parking lot. Giant. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording while the students populate. It is Thursday, the 30th, 1 p.m., U.S. History, Unit 8, and we are going to commence in about 5 minutes. Let all the kids join. How we doing, man? You good? Did he upload a frozen picture of himself? Oh, he's actually moving. Okay, good. I want to make sure he wasn't one of those frozen pictures of themselves. Good thing you're getting me some work now, dude. Let's get those grades up. Get those quizzes done. Yes, if you guys haven't taken the quiz, make sure you guys do so. If you guys are struggling to figure out how, please give me a email. All right, let's get started, right? Let's just get going. JP, you home? I am home. What home? La Habra home or Brea home? Roberto goes disappearing again, of course. All right, let's go to the notes, shall we? Did I upload them? I think I uploaded them, right, Avery?
Yeah, you did.
Cool, awesome.
I'm writing them right now, actually.
Great. It's helpful when you still write them, huh?
Yes, I remember more.
Let me, oh shoot, where are they? Berto, you are not allowed over, dude. Will not allow you in the backyard. Oh my
We'll
gosh,
find a way.
these are giant goobers.
They'll probably like jump your fence or something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
My dogs will run
Yeah.
and try and bite them, and then I'll have some big issue where my students got bit by a teacher's dog, even though they were in the teacher's backyard. Someone will come over and try and put down my dog, and then I'll tackle them and staple them with a gun or something.
Technically, he was
That
It'll be the
escalated.
biggest news since quarantine. Who's hiding?
You know what you're gonna do for?
I'm hiding.
Melena's hiding.
Do you know what you're gonna do for Mother's Day?
Ooh, I don't know. That's why I asked you guys what I should do for Mother's Day.
Disneyland.
Can't go to Disneyland.
Postpone it.
Did we talk about the Korean War last time?
I don't know.
Not really. I don't think. Did we?
Did we talk? We talked about McCarthyism, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on the Korean War. A lot of people forget about the Korean War. It's not really discussed that much when it comes to American history. Because it was very quickly after World War II. It's almost like an extension of World War II, if you will, except we're fighting new opponents. So the Korean War will take place in 1950 when the North Koreans invade past the 38th parallel. North Koreans, and I'm going to use this picture quite often, 1950, North Koreans are up here. This is a peninsula that is surrounded by China. It is across from Japan. It was a sector. This whole area was actually invaded by the Japanese during World War II. And so what happens is, after World War II, the United States is kind of controlling Japan. And we have split up different regions around the globe, including Germany, according to who's going to kind of help rebuild what area, right? We have all agreed that to rebuild is in the best interest of the rest of the nations, because if you can rebuild, they can start adhering to the world economy and helping out. And so you got China just to north of Korea. You have Japan just across the Sea of Japan to the south and the east, if you will. And so what they do is we split Korea along this parallel, the 38th parallel, which is a line right across here. You can barely see it on the far left picture. Better on the far right picture with the black line that kind of covers over the 38th parallel. And what occurred was the North Koreans were being supported by the Russians. And so the Russians were bringing in goods to North Korea. The South Koreans were supported by the Americans and the British. And so we had kind of been helping them build democratic relations and do things well in the South. And by well, I mean democratically. What happens is the North Koreans will invade the South Koreans, trying to make them turn to communism. Russia kind of egged them on, said, hey, we want you to reunite as a complete country under communism, and this will be very helpful. They had given them weapons, they'd given them training, they'd given them soldiers to help them learn different tactics. But the Russians themselves never fought. The Russians had already influenced China. China was going communism as well. They had already been communistic. Had pretty much fallen to communism over the last 10 years since World War II. And the North Koreans will use Russian tanks and weapons and will quickly push through South Korea and pushing all the South Koreans back to this little green area called Busan. And what happens at that moment is we realize, wow, we're being attacked. South Korea is being attacked. We're getting pushed back. And we use the UN, or the United Nations, which was formed right after World War II, to help push them back. The United Nations is a coalition. A coalition is a group of multiple different countries put together. And so the coalition will be of British, French, Canadian, Irish, Scottish, Australian soldiers that will then land in South Korea and start to fight. They actually start to land behind Busan and behind enemy lines over by Seoul, Korea, which is the capital of South Korea, right up here. And they quickly push the North Koreans back, very quickly. Within 3 months, they pushed them all the way back up by the Yalta River, which was along the border of China and North Korea. We pretty much had all the North Koreans on their backs. They were all pushed back. The problem is, as soon as we start to push them back up by the Yalta River, China gets really scared. And again, China is communistic. They believe that if China, or if North Korea falls, that we might actually go and invade China to get rid of communism. And so the Chinese send roughly 700,000 troops, way more than anybody else fighting in this war, into North Korea to help the communist North Korea and push us back. They push us back around Seoul. It creates a stalemate. Bernie, you are not outside my house, are you? I hope not. They push. What's up, dude?
Go to the front.
Dedicated.
You're not out front, dude.
Why?
He
Why can't
misses
believe it?
you.
Are you out front? If you're out front, I'll walk out front. Are you out front?
No.
All right, that's what I thought. Oh, but I know where you are.
I'm in the hood.
You in the hood, bro.
Yeah.
That little church behind you?
Yep.
Yeah, my grandmother designed that church and helped build it.
Really?
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
Yeah. Old Brea Secrets.
I've never been there.
I've been in there once or twice.
Yo, I don't need this, right?
No, you're out in public, dude.
Yeah.
No one's around you. You're good. All right. So back to the Korean War. It stays a stalemate for over a year, and finally it just kind of ends with an armistice talk. It's also called as the DMZ, this line. The DMZ stands for Demilitarized Zone, and it is roughly that 1 degree across the planet where it's a demilitarized zone in the North Korea-South Korea border. Even today, there's mines everywhere, and it's like a very serious topic. Oh, I forgot to take a picture of everybody who's in. Let me do that real quick.
How could you forget?
I do not know.
It's kind of like taking attendance.
I am kind of like
Yeah.
taking attendance. And so I just take a picture of this real quick, and it's helpful.
No,
So
I'm
it's even
saying you're bad
easier.
at taking attendance, so this is normal.
Taylor, telling the truth.
Hey.
On the Kylie Harris.
Savage Taylor.
Oh no, so scary.
I know.
All right, I'll take one more at the end of the period, too.
Don't worry, this is the only way we actually learn.
All right.
Decided.
So what happens is it becomes a demilitarized zone. It is a big conflict that continues to this day. They are still locked in negotiations there. You cannot go into the demilitarized zone or they will literally shoot you. It's about a quarter mile wide. There's mines there. There's barbed wire. It's really crazy. But at that spot where the actual line is, they actually have a large building. And there's 2 sets of buildings, and then there's a big courtyard in the middle. And in the courtyard is a line in gravel. And that is where the actual 38th parallel line is. And you can't cross that. There's like 10 soldiers on each side waiting to see if anybody will cross that line or they'll shoot them. But for the first time ever, I think it was last year, the North Korean president, the North Korean dictator, Kim Jong-un, who no one has any idea if they're alive or not, and the South Korean president actually met at the demilitarized zone. They shook hands and they crossed the border into each other's territory. On the other side, right next to there, there's a building, and actually they would go in the building and there's a bulletproof glass window with a phone. And that's how the leaders used to talk, is they would go in there and they'd pick up the phone on each side and then they would talk through the glass. And that would be how they discuss their issues to go and resolve conflicts. Even today, North Korea and South Korea is still separated. It's been separated for over 70 years.
Do you think Kim Jong-un is dead?
I don't know. I thought so, but now they're saying his boat is at one of his palaces, and they're saying he's kind of retreated away to get away from COVID. So, it's a very plausible thing that happened.
Do they think he's dead or disappeared? I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, they think he's dead or he's
in the gulag.
He's kind of in hiding right now to get away from COVID. So who knows? The Korean War, though, is very different in the fact that General MacArthur actually asks President Truman, whoever's writing, stop writing.
Beautiful.
And wait, go side to side, Bernie. Let me see the houses. You on Elm Street? No.
I'm close to Elm Street.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the hood right now, like the hood.
What at Elm Street? I live on Elm Street.
I don't know where Elm Street is.
Then how'd you say you're close?
Yes.
MacArthur actually asked Truman to use the atomic weapons, use the atomic bomb against the Chinese when they go and help the North Koreans. President Truman is shocked, and he's really agitated that he would ask him for this type of warfare. He fires General MacArthur, who is in place to help rebuild the Pacific. 94,000 United Nations or UN, right, NATO soldiers and forces will die in Korea, and over 107,000 communist forces will die in Korea trying to fight. Korea is still separated today, and it's kind of a big it's a stalemate. It's a giant stalemate. And so for us, this was very interesting because We had just kicked butt in World War I. We had just destroyed and done really well in World War II. And now we go to Korea and we get held. That doesn't make sense to us. And so we have to really wonder, like, okay, are we really the most powerful country in the world? And we didn't really know what was going on. It was an ego hit for us, if you will. This brings in the 1950s. Truman will use his 8 years and then he retires. Eisenhower will win election in 1952. Eisenhower was a general in World War II, and he's very popular. And so what we get, oh, dang, a nice pool. And so what we get is he runs with Nixon as his running partner, right? Crunch. Berto, I hope that wasn't your car.
JP, I crashed 2 weeks ago.
Bro, I don't even want to know, dude.
So I was speeding, and then it was the other dude's fault, but, I don't want to get to that. That was a long story.
Well, wait, did you rear end him?
Nah, he rear-ended me.
Then why was the front of your car toast?
I don't know.
So you rear-ended someone. Because that kind of makes it your fault. Moving on. Secretary of State John Foster Dulles will give Eisenhower this new plan to help fight communism, which they're really worried about. And this new plan is called brinkmanship. And brinkmanship is a very simple term. It is basically meaning become the biggest, baddest dog in the yard so that everyone else is scared of you. Milena, what is going on with your picture? It looks like you tried to upload a background and now your hair is green. I don't hear you, so. Oh, it's a picture in the background. Okay. Weird things these people do. And so basically brinkmanship is this idea of, hey, I'm going to be the biggest dog in the yard and I'm going to be big and tough. And so nobody will try and mess with me. And it's really simple. This brinkmanship really pushes the Cold War into full effect. Because you have to realize the USSR at this point will also try and take into effect brinkmanship. They also try and build up the largest army and navy possible. And then we try and build it up. And so it's who can have the big army. It's who can have the biggest raised truck. And it just creates kind of this influx of ego between the two countries. It doesn't help that in 1953, Stalin will finally die. He had been in charge of Russia for the better part of 20 or 30 years. He dies, and Nikita Khrushchev will take control. Nikita Khrushchev is a long-term, high-up Communist Party leader. He believes in communism. He was one of Stalin's good friends, and he continues to push this very strong communist idea of spreading communists. He will create the Warsaw Pact, and the Warsaw Pact creates an alliance with all the communist countries in the Eastern Bloc. And it is to help protect them against foreign influence and put down revolutions. And so when we look at this Soviet Union bloc, right, the Iron Curtain area, Bernie, you're a nutter, dude. When we look at these countries, East Germany, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, Albania, all these countries will join the Warsaw Pact. Rolf, Rolf. Blue, come here. Sorry, my dog's barking. The arms race will then continue because of brinkmanship, and this also creates the space race. By 1952, the hydrogen bomb, which is something like 1,000 times stronger than the atomic bomb. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 100 times more powerful than the atomic bomb, will be created. Within a year, the Soviets will have tested their own H-bomb, and it will continually progress to an arms race, meaning everyone tries to have the most atomic weapons, who tries to have the biggest weapons, who tries to do more curls than the other person, right? Right, Bernie? Who is the biggest dog in the yard? Again, this brinkmanship. This will lead to the creation of ICBMs, or intercontinental ballistic missiles, where they can put atomic warheads on the end of these ICBMs, and they can ship them hundreds of miles and hit other countries. In 1957, the Soviets will launch the rocket ship Sputnik, and the Sputnik will be the first satellite to orbit Earth. It goes into space, and Americans are terrified. They believe now that this is a space station that they can then shoot atomic weapons down over America and destroy America from. We are scared. And so within 1 year, the United States will launch its own aerospace system called NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. And within a few years, we'll have our first people on the moon ahead of the Russians. We will actually put people on the moon. Let's see if I want to do the next one. Yeah, we'll do one more slide and then we'll call it a day. What we have here with this giant buildup is you get a lot of people getting worried. You have this Red Scare that goes into full effect, right? We really talked about McCarthyism. McCarthyism is really, really full blown here. People are scared of the Russians. They're scared of Sputnik. They're scared of the Russians being spies. A whole different degree of espionage that we have never known. To the point of, the KGB infiltrating American secrets and trying to get it. And James Bond, the James Bond that we know of, is written because of this Red Scare, in which they start to get the James Bond books that depict him always either fighting the Nazis or fighting the communists or being this secret agent, if you will. And the Cold War heating up. And so, like Korea, there's going to be a lot of places where you get communist versus capitalist, but it won't really ever be directly the USSR versus the United States of America. In 1956, Vietnam will split into a north and southern section due to revolts against French leaders. The southern section had agreed to a new type of government. They tried to oust the French leaders. America would not allow them to oust them, and we will send in soldiers to revote and to start to help South Vietnam become its own nation. And this is just one instance, because North Vietnam starts to fall to communism. We'll get into Vietnam next week. Conflicts in the Middle East will also arise in Israel and Muslim countries. The Eisenhower Doctrine started, which would allow the United States to send money and force to help combat communism with aggression. And so we will send troops into different Middle Eastern countries to help fight against communism. We help Israel. This is where our longtime strategy with Israel will come from. Israel was a country formed after World War II. And so people wonder, why does Israel have so much conflict all the time? And that is because Israel was a country in which we made it by stealing land from other countries to create a state for Jewish people to live. Israel is a Jewish state surrounded by Islamic states in a very holy region of the planet. And we took land from religious countries to give to them this Jewish place. So yeah, places like Libya, Lebanon, Iraq, Egypt, Palestine, they are really angry still over us giving land for Israel. We will create the Southeast Asian Treaty Organization, or SEATO. Get it? NATO, SEATO. And so to remember those, SEATO, Southeast Asian, right? Southeast Asian. And NATO, North Atlantic, NATO. An alliance with democratic countries in Southeast Asia to help fight communism, like Vietnam, or South Vietnam, which doesn't last very long, Australia, New Zealand, New Guinea, Japan, and other places. And all these will join to promote democracy. We're going to stop there because we're going to get into Vietnam and the Vietnam War. Next week, we will kind of go through that and finish up the Vietnamese War, hopefully, and start to get into protests next week. Any questions for what's going on? No?
Nope.
Patterson, how you doing, girl? Nice to you join me. Let me guess, you just came for the extra credit?
No, I've been here. I just never showed my face before.
And you don't like to talk.
I do like to talk.
Okay. Let's see. We got a lot of people. Gabby, another one who hides in the background. You know, you guys can always say hi. Lauren's here. Mana, I do play Warzone, but you don't get to play Warzone anymore, Mana, because you got work to make up. Yeah, I'm putting you on blast right now, fool. I don't know what you guys call that. Let's take a picture of all these names. Awesome. No, I'm good, dude. Good question from Daniel. What do you suppose would end fighting in these heavy religious regions? Dude, if I, a simple high school teacher in California, could understand that question and give a good answer, I think I'd be making a lot more money. I would not be a teacher. I would be in politics, and I would have settled and become Time Magazine Man of the Year. I'd be praised. I'd probably be voted as president if I could figure out how to settle and bring peace to the Middle East. That is like fixing world hunger. The issue has gotten so much more complicated. It's a giant spider web of issues. And the crazy thing is, President Carter will actually host a peace treaty to stop fighting between Israel and other Palestinian and Muslim locations around the Middle East. And he does not get enough credit because he actually brings peace to that region. If I'm not mistaken, Berto, Cabo Grill is shut down right now, dude.
Mhm.
Mana, you already did that, dude. I can just text you if I need to. I am going to stop the recording then. You guys have been awesome.